So it is Thursday, the 5th of Elul, Hey Elul Tavshnayim Vav. We are in Teres Menachem Sefer HaMamorim, Tavshin Yud Gimel. We are starting the Maimer Basi Lgani Yud Shvat Tavshin Yud Gimel on page Ayin Zayin.
What's the little bit in between?
The bit in between, after the end of the last Maimer and the beginning of this one, is a printed version of notes that the Rebbe made for himself as headlines for this Maimer. So the Rebbe wrote out the points.
Yeah.
So that's the original. And then of course there's the Maimer that the Rebbe said. Of course, Basi Lgani is the Maimer the Rebbe would say every year on Yud Shvat, in connection to Yud Shvat. The original Basi Lgani consists of 4 parts. The previous Rebbe's Basi Lgani consists of 4 parts. That's the last Maimer that the previous Rebbe gave to be published before his Istalkus. And Yud Shvat, which was a Shabbos. And the Rebbe would say a Maimer in connection to Yud Shvat every year and explain one chapter of Basi Lgani, starting from chapter 1 through chapter 20. The 4 parts of Basi Lgani consist of a total of 20 chapters. So every year he would explain one chapter, beginning with Tavshin Yud Aleph, which was the first 1951, Yud Shvat, which was the first Maimer the Rebbe said when he accepted the leadership, the mantle of Chabad's leadership. And he would do that every year. In Tavshin Lamed in 1970, he finished round 1, and in 1971 he started round 2. Round 2 went, I believe, until 1988, which I believe was the last time. So cycle 2 wasn't quite finished. I believe the last Maimer that Rebbe said on Basi Lgani was in 1988, I believe it was, explaining chapter 18 for the second time. Subsequently, there were a number of...
In a different way? Or the same way?
No, he would add explanations and different points in that particular chapter. And a number of them were edited. This Maimer that we're going to learn now is an edited Maimer. Okay? And this was edited before Yud Shvat 1954. Okay? So this is a Maimer of the Rebbe entitled Basi Lgani. They all started with the words Basi Lgani. All these Maimerim, basically, mainly. There were others, there was a Shavas Baganim, Tzitkas Berzeni, but they were all focused around the Maimerim, the 4 parts of the Maimerim of Yud Shvat. Mainly Basi Lgani. And on occasion the Rebbe would say more than one Maimer. For example, if Yud Shvat fell out on Shabbos or on Friday, there was more than one Fabrengen, the Rebbe would typically say more than one Maimer. So it begins on the words Basi Lgani Achesikalo, which is the beginning, the opening verse of the original Basi Lgani. Basi Lgani Achesikalo is a verse in Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs, which basically means, I have come to my garden, my sister, my beloved. Basi Lgani Achesikalo, I've come to my garden, my sister, my beloved. V'isa b'medrash Rabbah b'mkeimai, and the Medrash Rabbah on this place, in other words, in Shir HaShirim, explains Lgani. What does Lgani mean? Lignuni, to my special garden, as it were, to my special meeting place. Could have said Basi Lagan, I've come to the garden. What does it mean, my garden? It denotes a garden or a meeting place which is special for Hashem. This is Hashem basically speaking to the Jewish people. So he says, I've come to my garden, my sister, my beloved. What does it mean, my special garden? A special meeting place. To the place where my main presence was originally. The Iker Shechina betachtenim hoisa. Because
sorry, this is explaining the third chapter.
yes, the main aspect of the Shechina was present down here below. When? At the time of creation, when Hashem created Adam, and He inserted him into Gan Eden, into paradise, as it says, La'avda u'lishamra, to work it and to guard it. And as Chazal say, La'avda means the 248 positive commandments. L'shamra means to keep the 365 prohibitive, those things that you're prohibited to do, one's prohibited to do. So that brought the presence of the Iker Shechina, the main aspect of the Shechina, down here below. And as the Rebbe explained in the first Maimer Basi Lgani, which we learned in Tafshin Yud Aleph, that there's Shechina and there's Iker Shechina. Shechina means, generally, when we say the expression Shechina, it's a reference to Malchus, right? Iker Shechina means, because there are different levels in Malchus. There's Malchus of Asiya, there's Malchus of Bria, right? And there's even Malchus before the Tzimtzum. So Shechina basically is contextual, the Rebbe explains. It means, in every situation, Shechina refers to that aspect which could be themed as Malchus, which also is present in the Ein Sof Shalifnei Tzimtzum, in Hashem's infinite light, even before the first contraction, right? Iker Shechina means the main aspect of Malchus, which goes back to the very highest level. So that was present down here below. When? In Gan Eden with Adam Rishon. And through the sin of the tree of knowledge of Adam, eating from the tree of knowledge, and the sins that followed, Silku, this has removed Hashchina Milmata Lamaila, the Shechina from below to above, starting first from the earth to the first heaven. As we know, there are 7 heavens, as Chazal say, as the sages say. So it removed the Shechina from below to above. It started to move the Shechina away from below to above, starting from the earth up to the first heaven, Ad Rakia Hazayin, until the 7th heaven, through 7 sins, as the Medrash enumerates. And the righteous that followed, the 7 righteous men that followed, Ad Moshe Rabbeinu, until Moses, who was the 7th in this series of, in this order of Tzaddikim the righteous, Shehu Hashvi, who was the 7th, and as the Medrash says, V'chol Hashvin Chavivin, and all 7th are beloved, Himshichu, these Tzaddikim, these righteous, drew down Hashchina, the divine presence, Milmaila Lamata, from above to below, starting from what? From the 7th heaven to the 6th, and so on and so forth, Ad Be'eretz HaGashmis Mamish, until they drew it back down to the physical earth. Through whom? Through Moshe Rabbeinu. And it is concerning this drawing down that the verse states, and you shall make for me a mikdash, a temple, a holy place, and I shall dwell among them. And of course, it starts off by saying singular, and you shall make for me a holy place, a mikdash, and then it says, I shall dwell within them. What's the plural? So the simple definition, the Chazal say, this is a hint that there's going to be more than one temple, as our history has borne out. The deeper meaning is, it doesn't say, and I shall dwell within him, or within it, but rather it says, Ela b'seicham, what does the verse state? It says, b'seicham, in them. So the deeper meaning is, b'seich kol echad, ve'echad mi Yisrael, within each and every single Jew. Meaning to say that each and every single Jew has within him a temple, or has a temple within which Hashem rests. So the Rebbe defines this even further behind it, meaning, how does this process work in the context of drawing down the Shechina into the temple within each and every one? We know that there's this idea of the righteous, right? So in other places the Rebbe explains, as the verse says, your nation are all righteous. Here the Rebbe says, this is how does this work? Through the fact that the righteous bring about, effectuate all of these aspects within themselves. And then they affect this into the people of their generation. And as he says in the brackets in Yiddish, they work through these matters, these ideas, as the Rebbe is going to explain later on in the Maimer. They work through these matters within themselves. And they also affect this in their generation. So through this process, through this, they draw down as a Shekhinah, the divine presence, down here below, as it was originally, as it was in the beginning. And as he carries on and says, even more, they also draw down the main aspect of the Shekhinah down here below. This is a bit of it seems to be a strange phrase, because the Maimer began by saying, quoting from the Medrash, based on the Medrash, so that the main Shekhinah was present down here below originally. So what does it mean that they draw down the Shekhinah down here below as it was originally, and even more the Ikar Shekhinah, the main aspect of the Shekhinah? That seems to have been the case already in the beginning. Perhaps it means, I don't know if this is the actual pshat, but perhaps it means that in the process of the Shekhinah being down here below originally, there were two stages. There was a stage of the Shekhinah being down here before Adam was put into the Garden of Eden, La'avda L'Shamra, to work it and to keep it, to draw the Shekhinah down. So in what manner was the Shekhinah present prior to Adam Rishon's service of Hashem, as opposed to after? So it must be that before it wasn't Iker Shekhinah, the Shekhinah was there, but Adam affected a greater revelation and drawing down of the Shekhinah, meaning to say he actually drew down the Iker Shekhinah. Similarly, now I guess, when the tzaddikim and them working through these matters on their own and also affecting the people of their generation in that way, not only do they draw down the Shekhinah as it was prior to Adam Rishon's service of Hashem, but also they bring about the drawing down of the deeper aspect of the Shekhinah, the Ikar Shekhinah, the main aspect of the Shekhinah. And of course, in all that, we know there are levels as well. We know that you can't compare the fulfillment of the mitzvahs of our forefathers to the fulfillment of mitzvahs of Yidden. There's a big difference between the fulfillment of mitzvahs prior to Matan Torah and after Matan Torah, in terms of how deep the transformation takes place and how deep the Shekhinah becomes present and manifest. Similarly, Adam Rishon's Aveda, service of Hashem, although it did bring about a manifestation, a presence of the Shekhinah, you can't compare that to the presence of the Shekhinah as it has come down in the deeper sense, and I guess in a higher level, in a higher level and a deeper level throughout the Aveda after Matan Torah. Just one more line. So the tzaddikim, through working through these matters in themselves and also affecting their generation, they draw down the main aspect of the divine presence down here below. As the previous Rebbe writes in his Hasidic discourse from the day of his passing. And to explain the expression in the Zohar, when the other side, meaning to say the side up the other to Kedusha, to holiness, is bent, is talik, yikara, top of page Ein Ches, yikara, the Kuchabrichu b'chol almin. The presence of Kuchabrichu becomes manifest in all worlds. The Pirushi ha'er shemer b'chol almin b'shava. Over here, it means that, as the Frierdiker Rebbe explains in his Maimer, what does it mean, yikara, the Kuchabrichu b'chol almin? The presence of Hashem, of Kuchabrichu in all worlds. It's a reference to a level of godliness that is present in all worlds equally. Not only does it mean that it becomes present in all worlds, but what type of divine presence are we talking about? We're talking about a level of godliness that inherently is such that it makes itself present and shines in all worlds equally. Which is, of course, a reference to what? To use the terminology of Chassidus, basically it is the transcendent divine energy, Sovev Kol Almin, that level of godliness that is present in all worlds equally, as opposed to Memal Kol Almin, the internal divine energy, which is, of course, tailored to each level according to its specific character. And how do we make this present? Through our service of Hashem, of His Kafis and His Hapcha, as the Rebbe will continue in the Maimer.